Hello, everyone. Welcome, one and all, to the 2065 SNCFL Championship Preview presented by me, Tony Sports, here at Tony Sports Games. It is now in the SNCFL January of 2066, at the end of another incredible, long, hard-fought season and playoffs. Only two teams remain standing, and the championship will be determined tonight, less than 3 hours or so from now, as I sit here recording this. We have the number one Maryland Terrapins at 16-0, piloted by our commissioner, Darren, facing off against Invisible Witness and the 14-1 Auburn Tigers. This is a true heavyweight showdown. One of these two teams has been number one in the polls for 14 out of the 16 weeks of the season leading into our bowl season here. And I'm really excited for one of these two guys to be crowned our 2065 champion here in the Sim Nation College Football League. I wanted to give kind of a short preview for this game. Of course, this will not be the same as our season recap for our SMU Mustangs. We unfortunately were not in the playoffs, so this is just for the guys that made the playoffs, and especially our two finalists. I wanted to do something just to kind of hype everybody up for the championship tonight. As you can see from our playoff bracket, Maryland entered the tournament as the number one seed. They finished the regular season undefeated and won the Big Ten. And, I do have to say, for being the number one overall seed, Darren did not get any favors from the playoff committee on his side of the bracket here. A lot of heavyweight teams facing off on this left side of the bracket. You had, of course, number one Maryland, but also, Clemson was here, Matt's Clemson team. Stewart's Michigan squad, Sharks Georgia squad, and Skeltor's ULM team, all stacked on the left side of the bracket here. All teams that really, I think, were contenders to be finalists, at least in my mind, leading up to this. As you can see, Maryland took care of Coastal Carolina in the first round, then defeated Matt and his Clemson squad in the quarterfinals, 55-38. Faced off in the semis against Skeltor and ULM and defeated them 37-23. As for Invisible Witness and Auburn, here on the right side of the bracket, they dominated a very outmatched CPU-run Florida International team in the first round, 68-7. They then advanced to face probably the best CPU-run team in the league, or at least one of them, in Ohio State. They came out on top 34-23. Ohio State, a great team to take over if anyone out there is interested in joining this league. Then in the semifinals, we had a rematch of the semifinals last year in Auburn versus UCLA. Of course, UCLA is Stewart's top team. Also a rematch from week one of this season, where Auburn and UCLA faced off to start the year. And for the second time this season, Invisible Witness gets the better of Stewart in this one, 48-13, to send us to our championship showdown here. Both these teams have had tremendous seasons. If we look at kind of the matchup here, Maryland, of course, the number one team in the nation at this point. There are defending national champions, preseason number two, and they won the Big Ten, 16-0 at this point. No surprise to see them back here again. Of course, winning the national championship last year with a true freshman quarterback in Shaka Chung, who won the Heisman last year, won the national championship, might win the Heisman again, has had an incredible season again, as you can see. Over 6,000 passing yards, 61 passing touchdowns against 14 interceptions. And then on Auburn's side of things, 14-1, their lone loss to ULM, Skeltor's ULM team. So they were not the SEC champions. They were an at-large team, but in the top three pretty much all year long. They were number one for at least 6 or 7 weeks, I think from week 3 on till week 11, so I guess about 8 weeks. They've had a tremendous season as well. They were preseason number 4. 2 elite offenses that get it done in completely different ways. As you can see, Maryland, number 2 in passing offense at just under 385 yards a game. The number 52 rushing attack at 153 yards per game. Number 6 scoring offense, over 44 points a game. To Auburn on the other side, the number 1 scoring offense in the league, scoring over 51 points a game. The number 2 total offense with 551 yards a game. The number 2 rushing offense with 294 rushing yards a game, and the number 56 passing offense. So 2 elite offenses that get it done in different ways, but really kind of mirrors of each other, where, Maryland, the number 2 passing offense in the league, and 50s in rushing. Auburn, the number 2 rushing offense in the league, and in the 50s in passing. So both teams have an ability to both run and pass the ball, which I do think is going to be key going into tonight. And then when you look on the defensive side of the ball, 2 elite defenses as well. Auburn, the number 6 scoring defense, allowing 20 points a game. 9th in total yards at 335. 31st against the rush at 123.5 yards a game. And 15th against the pass, 212 yards a game. The Auburn defense has forced 9 interceptions. They have 11 fumble recoveries this year. And one thing that may prove to be very important in tonight's game, they are the number 1 defense in the country in sacks, with 78 sacks on the season. I think that's on the regular season as well. All these stats I'm referencing, I believe, are regular season. Not sure if they take the playoffs into account, but Auburn, the number 1 defense in the country with sacks, with 78. First by 8. The second place team in the whole league had 70. So, great defense for Auburn. Maryland as well. The 10th scoring offense in the league, or scoring defense in the league, allowing only 21 points a game. The 4th total defense, allowing just 323 yards. The 9th rushing defense at just under 108, and the 18th ranked pass defense at 216. The Maryland defense has forced 12 interceptions, 9 fumbles recovered. They have 48 sacks on the season, tied for 31st. So really, it is a very interesting matchup. You have, on one hand, a team in Maryland who has an elite passing offense going up against a very good passing defense from Auburn. And then on the other side, you have an elite rushing offense from Auburn going up against a pretty elite rushing defense in Maryland. So really, these teams, it's a really interesting matchup. They counter each other in some ways. They both have strengths on both sides of the ball. I do think it's going to be a very interesting championship game. Both teams come into this fairly healthy. Maryland completely healthy and injury-free. The one injury for Auburn that is somewhat of note is this Philip Harr. He is a starting guard for Auburn, and he is doubtful to play tonight. He is one of the better run blockers on this team. Of course, the rushing attack being so important for Auburn. It will be a challenge. It will add to the challenge that is Maryland's rush defense. Now, a couple things that I do believe could prove key in this matchup tonight. First, I wanted to take a look at the Auburn defense. As I said before, they're the number 1 defense in the country in terms of sacks with 78. I think that's going to be really key tonight. Maryland has such an explosive passing offense. They have multiple wide receivers. They have an incredible tight end. And for Invisible to have any chance tonight, he's going to have to put pressure on Shaka, and I think he's going to have to do it with his front. He has an excellent front. They've been putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks all season long, and I think that'll be very key. Now, if you look at the plays that Darren has run the most with this defense, which has been a fine defense all year long, what do you see? You see a lot of light formations on defense, a lot of nickel, a lot of dime, more nickel. I mean, it's a lot of nickel. So if you look by formation on the season, we have nickel, nickel, dime press, nickel wide, all of these with far more than any base defenses. Now, what's interesting about this, I do think we can look a little bit at what Darren did last week in the semifinal matchup with Skeletor and ULM. Now, ULM and Auburn are not exactly the same type of team, but they are both, well, they're the top two rushing attacks in the country. ULM number 1, Auburn number 2. If you look at Darren's defense from the semifinals against Skeletor and ULM, you see him playing a lot more base defense, which makes sense. You're going against a team that runs a ton. It makes sense to play a little bit more in some heavier personnel, not completely reliant on the nickel and the dime. Now, the thing about Darren, and I think it's one of his superpowers, he has a real ability to be flexible on both offense and defense. He has a real ability to make adjustments and do what he thinks will work for a particular game and a particular matchup. So there could be things that I don't see that Darren sees that are less similar about ULM and Auburn than I think. But I think it's very possible he could employ a similar defensive game plan against the heavy rushing attack of Auburn, just like he did in the semifinals against another excellent elite rushing offense in ULM. So what would that actually do? If Darren plays more base defense looks than his usual, heavy nickel and dime. Well, if you look at his defensive backs and you look at who gets the most snaps, I think it's safe to say that when he is in nickel and dime, I think it's one of these extra corners that is playing his nickel and dime back role. I don't think it's a safety because he doesn't have any other safeties that take a lot of snaps. So if we look at a couple of Darren's corners here, kind of at the top, the guys that have played the most during the season, I think you have to look first here at Bobby Gardner. Now, if you scroll down and look at his snaps, he played 96 snaps against Louisiana Monroe. So I don't think this is a guy that's going to come off the field. But if you look at these other two top guys, Sutter with 56 snaps against ULM, and then Brock as well. Brock with 66 snaps. One of these guys is probably going to be coming off the field a little bit more when Darren is in base defense personnel, if he chooses to employ that technique again to try to slow down Auburn's running game. So what opportunities could this open up for Invisible? I think, and again, I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I would guess Darren's probably playing more of this increased base defensive personnel on early downs that are more obvious run plays. So I guess my question is, will Invisible be willing to throw it a little bit more on early downs to try to take advantage of, Darren's possibly third or fourth linebacker who may be in the game when Darren's in base personnel defensive packages as opposed to his third corner. Now, these are both still fine players, but I think it could be possible for Invisible to find a little bit more success throwing on early downs if he can catch Darren in some more base personnel packages. Now, it is possible that Darren has a large mix of packages in his playbooks for all downs, so it may not be completely possible to take him by surprise, but I'll definitely be interested to see if Invisible and Auburn will attempt to throw the ball a little more. Does Invisible see what I see, which is a lot more snaps in base personnel last week against ULM, and will he try to find a way to exploit that? Now, on the other end of things, if you look at Auburn's defense here, I think he's going to do a lot of what he's been doing a lot this season, which is to play against the Maryland passing attack, a lot of dime, 3-3-5, nickel. You can see here his most played formations actually dime press, quarter wide, dime prevent. Then we have 3-3-5. We have to go all the way down here to find a 3-4 defense with only 89 snaps played. But I think because he is matching up against a team that loves to throw the ball, of course, I think he's going to focus on that in his defensive preparations. Now, what Darren has been able to do over the last couple seasons, and I've only been in the league for the last 2 years, but what Darren has shown several times the ability to do is when he gets into one of these games where passing is a little bit more of a struggle, he has shown the ability to bring up the runs just a little bit and control the game by running the ball. And if Invisible employs a similar defensive strategy to what I'm expecting, it's definitely going to be possible for Darren to run the ball against a lot of light boxes and try to take advantage of that on the other side. So it's definitely an interesting chess match between the two human coaches here. How much will either of them be willing to pivot from their, kind of regular game plan system on both offense and defense and try to catch the other one a little bit flat-footed? Of course, I can't wait to see that. Now, as far as my advice for either of these teams, and they don't need advice from me. Both these guys are better coaches than myself and a lot more experienced. But, I think from Maryland's point of view, it perhaps is a little bit more simpler. I do think Darren's a bit of a favorite here. I would be at least somewhat concerned about the pass rush from Auburn. They get a lot of pressure just with their front five, and that could cause a real issue. Now, if you look at Darren's passing attack and you sort by targets here, you really have 3 targets that get the lion's share of the work in his tight end, William Geiger, which if I was Invisible, I would focus Geiger and try to take the middle of the field away. I would try to clog up the middle of the field. Invisible has some really good corners, and while he's probably not going to be able to completely shut down Darren on the outside, I would probably take my chances on the outside with some very fine corners against these receivers, and I would try to focus Geiger and take away the middle of the field. Also, there are some defensive plays he could play to clog up the middle of the field that might be somewhat effective against Maryland's run game as well, which I would expect Darren to lean in a little bit more than usual to the run game, since he's probably going to be facing a lot of light boxes with the defenses that Auburn loves to play. So if I was Invisible, I would probably focus Geiger, and I would try to take away the middle of the field. You have to take a chance somewhere to beat Maryland. I would trust that my front 4, who have gotten pressure for me all season long, will get pressure again tonight. Try to force Shaka into a couple mistakes, try to get some sacks, and I would probably try to focus my defensive game plan on taking away the middle of the field, taking away Geiger, take my chances on the outside with some talented receivers, but against a very talented Auburn secondary. Now for Darren, I'm interested to see what he does with his running back tonight in the passing game. Eagle only has 32 targets on the season. He's not a huge part of the passing game regularly. Will Darren make an adjustment to keep the running back in to block a little bit more? I don't think with as good as Geiger is at receiving, Darren's going to want to chip with a tight end as much. Geiger is a weapon. He's going to want to use him for, the weapon that he is, a really excellent pass-catching tight end. But will he make an adjustment to hold the running back in for some more pass protection, or is he just going to kind of let it all hang out and send everybody out and trust Shaka to do what he's done, his whole college career so far, which is make great decisions and win football games? Shaka never lost a football game in his college career so far. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side of things, for Auburn, if I was Darren, I probably would do what I expect him to do, which is try to focus the run. Darren also has, an excellent secondary himself, so I would focus the run and take my chances on the outside with my secondary. Anyway, it's going to be a really fascinating matchup. Good luck to both guys. Congratulations on making it to the championship game. Thanks to everyone for playing this year, making it another great year in the SNCFL. And good luck to both coaches. Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you're interested in getting involved, the SNCFL is a great online league. Even if you're new to Draft Day Sports College Football, we have a lot of great human coaches that are willing to kind of show you the ropes as we go along. There's no better way to learn than to play in an online league. So if you're interested in joining, I'm going to link our Discord in the video description down below. Also, even if you're not interested in playing, but you want to follow along with the SNCFL, we have a website where you can see the results of the games as they happen. There's a good chance by the time you watch or listen to this video that this game has already happened. So if you want to look and see what happened before my season recap video, I'll link the website for our league in the description as well. You can go check out the playoff results for yourself and see which of these two wonderful teams comes out on top. So that's going to do it for us here at Tony Sports Games for our SNCFL 2065 Championship Game Preview. We'll be back this Friday with another episode of our Road to Glory Ragin' Cajuns Dynasty Playthrough Series, and we'll be back sometime in the next week or two with a season recap for the whole league and our own SMU Mustangs. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck tonight, and I will see you all right back here for the next video.